changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. And it's Friend Friday, which means we are joined today by one of my friends in the Chicken Soup for the Soul family. And we're really lucky. Today, Dylan Brody has joined us. He's a humorist and storyteller. He won the 2005 Stanley Drama Award for playwriting. He opens for David Sedaris sometimes when he is on the West Coast. He's released 5 CDs through Stand Up Records, 2 full-length digital downloads through Rooftop Comedy. You can see Dylan's videos on YouTube by typing in Dylan Brody. You can visit his website at dylanbrody.com, and you can also follow him on Twitter at Dylan Brody. And Dylan is one of our new writers, and he wrote for our latest best-selling book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, My Very Good, Very Bad Cat. And I know he's a dog person as well, and maybe just a cat guy through marriage. I'm not sure. But Dylan, welcome, and tell me, because I don't know the answer to this, how did we get so lucky that we got a writer of your caliber to send in a story for our cat book?
That's a marvelous story, actually. There's a guy named Paul Lander, who is a humor writer and a very funny man in his own right. And he had somehow gotten wind of your open call for cat stories. And he knew that I had a cat story on one of my CDs and told me that I should submit it to you. And then I resisted for a minute because I'm a schmuck. And then I realized I was being a schmuck, and I immediately, the moment I realized that, edited the story down so that it did not include a nested flashback. Almost all of my stories have nested flashbacks of one sort or another, and sent it off, and was delighted that you guys picked it up for use in the book. As I understand it, the profits from this book are going to the American Humane Association. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm very happy that you decided to be our schmuck at Chicken Soup for the Soul. And yeah, the royalties from the book, some of the royalties are going to the American Humane Association. And it's the second pair of dog and cat books we've done with the AHA. And we do it because we are really passionate about promoting the adoption and the care of dogs and cats that are in shelters.
I think that is a noble and worthy cause. Even if dogs and cats in shelters have ruined Sarah McLachlan's song for me, I feel we should do everything we can for the wonderful beasties that bring us all joy and luck.
You know what I find when I read the stories that are submitted for our books is that people who have adopted their dogs and cats from shelters always say that that dog or that cat is the best one they've ever had. There's something about animals rescued from shelters. It's like they know and they're grateful, and they just throw everything they have into the relationship with their new human family. They
clearly do. I think we undercredit the animals in our lives in terms of their intellect and their comprehension. My eldest dog, Sir Corwin, the beautiful dog-faced dog, Brindlebeast of Silmar, we adopted when he was 8 or 9 weeks old, and he had already been adopted. He and his sister had been adopted and returned, and we adopted him. And his comprehension of English was so remarkable. We had been told that we should housebreak him by taking him to the door and making him sit, and then taking him out for a walk several times a day, and that then he would know to go to the door and sit when he needed to go out. And the second day that we had him at 8 or 9 weeks old, he went to the door and sat, and we took him out, and he was housebroken instantly. They are far smarter and far more communicative than people realize. And I think the ones that are rescued know that they were having a lousy time, and then someone showed up and gave them a much better time.
I agree with you. My daughter has adopted, she and her fiance have 2 dogs adopted from shelters. Both of these dogs were rather damaged. One is a pug that's half deaf, half blind. One side of her face is mushed in. Her tongue is always hanging out. She's missing teeth. And the other is an Australian cattle dog that was double the appropriate weight for the dog. And both of these dogs came into their home and were immediately perfectly house trained. It was remarkable after being in a shelter that they were the perfect pets. So you had a story in our book about your cat, which was a remarkable cat that could tell time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Jojo Precious Tiger Kitty?
Jojo Precious Tiger Kitty, the cat who could tell time, was an amazing beast. I'm allergic to cats, although I did not have a terrible reaction to Joe. I met Joe he came with the woman who became my wife. And he could tell time. Nancy, that's my wife, used to get up very early in the morning, 5 days a week. She was up at 5:30 in the morning, and then on the weekend, because Joe was used to that schedule, he would wake her up at 5:30 in the morning to get breakfast. And finally, one Friday, she just sat down with him and said, I don't need to be up tomorrow, so I'll tell you what. If I'm not up by 9, you can go ahead and wake me. And the following morning, Joe said, wow, wow, wow. And Nancy woke up and looked at the clock and said, wow, and woke me up. It was 9 o'clock. So we started experimenting, and we gave him different times on the weekends that he could wake us. And whatever time we told him, that was when he woke us. And while I was shocked that he could tell time, Nancy believed that she imagined the digital clock and what it would look like at that moment. And he picked up on her psychic imagery and then waited for the clock to look like that. Why I find that so much less possible than the idea that the cat could tell time is a mystery I shall never understand. But he never failed. 8:52, 9:23, whatever time we told him, that's when he would wake us up, because he was a genius.
That's incredible. That really is. I've got a talking horse for you.
Have you?
No, just kidding. That cat really is remarkable. And I know that there's more to this story. Your cat...
There is, but I don't want to give away spoilers. That's in the book.
Okay, so you have to read
the book, and the money will go, some of the profits will go to the AHA, and that is better than me getting the momentary pleasure of telling the story on the podcast.
Well, thanks, Dylan. Now, Mother's Day is coming, and I know you've told a lot of really humorous stories about your mom and some really heartwarming stories also. Do you have one that you would like to share with us in honor of Mother's Day?
Absolutely. This was the first story that David Sedaris ever invited me to do on his stage. The first time I opened for him, I told this story. It is called, If There Were Swans, It Would Be a Lamentation. One of my favorite things about singer-songwriter John Darnielle is that even when he performs with none of his musical compatriots, he goes on stage and says, "Hi, we are the Mountain Goats. I am not a music critic." Recently, my playlist had looped around to the song Slow West Vultures by the Mountain Goats. When I pressed the button on my steering wheel that turns off the music and answers the phone, even though I have caller ID and could see that it was my mother. After the conversation had gone on longer than I was comfortable with, which is to say, we had exchanged greetings and were still on the phone, she said, "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." And I said, "No, I was just listening to the Mountain Goats." She said, "Oh, I thought you were in your car." I said, I am in my car." She said, "Why are there mountain goats in your car?" I said, "Mom, it's a recording." She said, "Oh, isn't that a riot while you're driving around?" I don't get that whole new age thing where people listen to a record of nature sounds, a field of crickets, a pod of whales, whatever. I said, "No, Mom, it's a band." She said, "Honey, I'm pretty sure if it's whales, it's a pod." She said it in that tone of forced patience and condescension with which she corrected me on my grammar when I was 5. I said, "Not the whales, Mom, the mountain goats." She said, honey, that would be a herd. That tone again. I gripped my steering wheel. I listened to my breath. I imagined a bird carrying my anger toward a distant horizon, as my therapist has advised me to do when I speak with my mother. I said, no, Mom, the Mountain Goats are a band. They play musical instruments and sing post-grunge humanist folk rock. She said, oh, that sounds very interesting. I would love to hear that. I said, I can send you a CD. She said, please don't. I wouldn't enjoy it. I was just being polite. And then after a moment, she said, can they even know what it's about? I said, who? She said, the Mountain Goats. Can they even know what the words they're singing mean? I said, Mom, do you genuinely believe that the conversation we're having right now is about actual mountain goats that have been trained to play musical instruments and sing post-grunge humanist folk rock? She said, oh, Dylan, you're just like your father. It's always all about the subtext. I gripped my steering wheel. I listened to my breath. She could hear the tension over the phone because in truth I am just like my father and it's always all about the subtext. She said, are you okay? Where did you go just then? I said, I'm fine, Mom. I was just imagining a whole flock of crows headed toward a distant horizon. She said, oh, honey, you're thinking about a murder. And I said, yes, I am.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you for letting me share the story.
It's great. And I love the way you play with words. That's really a fun Friday for me as an editor. I just love words. And I know you're going to honor us with a story for our Christmas book that's coming up at the end of 2016. So I'm excited about that.
I'm delighted to be included if you will have me.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for helping us all laugh on this Friday. We're proud that we have you as part of the Chicken Soup for the Soul family. And if you want to read more about the book that Dylan's story was in, Chicken Soup for the Soul, My Very Good, Very Bad Cat, then go to our website, chickensoup.com. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening today. And next time we talk will be Motivational Monday. I'll be sharing a story that will make you want to say yes to a lot of new things.